you to Bill Coe, who's at Montgomery College, and he's here today to talk to us about Fast Track. This is a webinar sponsored by the American Mathematical Association of Two-Year Colleges, and more information about our association can be found by following the link, amatyc.org. The views expressed by presenters are not necessarily the views of AMATYC, and if they endorse commercial products, those are not necessarily endorsed by AMATYC. The webinars are all held in the platform provided by the Lift Institute at Muskegon Community College, and if you have ideas for future webinars, please let me know. My email address is at the bottom there. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Bill. I'm going to do that and then stop my webcam, which could be slightly dangerous. We'll see if everything goes all right. But if it's dangerous, you'll just see me disappear for 30 seconds and then come back. Let's see. So let's share Bill's slides here. And Bill doesn't have a webcam, so we're going to go dark. I don't want you to see my face the whole time. So, Bill, I'll go ahead and let you get started. I'm going to stop my webcam. Like I said, if for some reason I go dark for 30 seconds, don't panic. Just keep talking.
Okay. Are we ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, as Maria mentioned, this presentation is about Fast Track, which is what Montgomery College uses. And it's a program that we have two fast-paced intensive review courses. One that covers pre-algebra and one that covers elementary algebra. That's one course, and then the elementary algebra, intermediate algebra is another course. So it's a program that's designed to try and expedite the journey a student takes through the development of math sequence. Now, I've made presentations on Fast Track at a number of AMATYC conferences as well as some others, and so many of you may have heard about the Fast Track program before. So the first question I want to ask is, you know, have you actually heard of Montgomery College's Fast Track program?
So it looks
like we've got some yes, some no. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
I close that?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. The problem that I see being addressed at just about every community college around the country is how can we improve the throughput? How can we get students who start out in a developmental math class, how can we get them through to pass a college level math class? And the percentage I know is a very low number. And before I prejudice you with what our numbers are, I'm just wondering if we can do another little survey here and take a little vote on where you think the students are. What rate do you think pass if they start out at pre-algebra level?
How'd we do?
So, you know, less than 10% or 10 to 20% is what seems to be coming up with the majority. Can we just close that now? And
so what is the answer?
Well, I can tell you what my answer is, okay, at Montgomery College. And you'll see the data in just a minute, but right now, 48% pass pre-algebra, 44% pass elementary algebra, 54% pass intermediate algebra, and about 67% pass the first level of college level math class. If you multiply that all out, it comes out at about 7.5 students out of every 100 will actually get through the process. So at our school, it's less than 10%. What I'd like to see is to find some magic formula that says, okay, we're going to take that from something less than 10% to certainly more than 20%, maybe more than 30%. Okay, well, I don't have the solution, sorry. I know a lot of people work on this problem, and but I don't think there's anybody who's come up with that magic formula that says we can move it from whatever it is to 2 or 3 times that. But what I want to mention is that at Montgomery College, okay, right now, what we have is, I call it a 3-pronged approach. We've done a course redesign. We use the Emporium model. Maybe some of you know about that. It's where you've got a big open computer laboratory and students come in and work through on their own, at their own pace, through the developmental math sequence. We have just implemented that in the fall. So I don't have any data on that. But if you want to come to AMATYC in November at Jacksonville, I know we've submitted a a proposal to make a presentation to talk about our course redesign process and how we've done with it. But right now, since we just started in the fall, we don't have any real data on that for you. One of the things we also have done to try and speed things up is to combine our highest level developmental math course, intermediate algebra, with the statistics course, so that students, while they would pay for 5 credits, would get 3 college credits at the end of that course, but they can do that in 1 semester, which we hope will speed through the process. And we are also in the process of combining intermediate algebra, intermediate algebra with another college level math course, so we would, students would have a choice. But what I'm going to talk to you today about is the Fast Track program, which I think is one of the elements of improving this this throughput rate to try and get more folks to complete a college level math class. So I just, again, curious, how many of the schools that are listening there, how many have actually done a course redesign for their developmental math sequence? So it looks almost an even split. Some have, some haven't. Okay. All right, well, what I'm going to talk to you today about is the Fast Track program as we have it implemented on Montgomery College. About 3 years ago now, the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching did a study on what they call boot camps, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give you a little bit of history on the Montgomery College and the history of the Fast Track program. And we'll go through some other things about the results we've gotten from Fast Track since we've been doing this now for over a decade. And then give you some ideas about, if you wanted to start a program, some things you might want to consider. Okay. Well, Fast Track, you know, in today's terminology, I think they call it a boot camp. Back when we started this back in 2000, I hadn't heard that term referenced except in a military fashion, but Fast Track is 2 fast-paced intensive review courses. As I mentioned before, basic Fast Track covers the pre-algebra, elementary algebra. Advanced Fast Track covers elementary and intermediate. The elementary algebra portion is identical in both courses. I'm going to give you more information about how we conduct these courses and when we conduct them in a couple of slides. Now, the Carnegie study, they define boot camp, and really this definition sounds almost exactly like the definition we use for Fast Track. An intensive program whose goal is to accelerate students' progress through the developmental math sequence or to bypass it entirely. And really that's just what Fast Track is about. Now, the study that they did, they identified 5 short shot boot camps. Okay. Now, they define short shots as 1 to 3 week intensive review courses. And they've identified these 5. Fast Track was one of them. They go by many names. And there's probably a lot of them out there. In fact, I did a Google search on Fast Track Math and just got a ton of responses, some of which had nothing to do with the kind of things we're talking about. But it's evident that a lot of people are doing some things with this kind of program. Now, they called short shot programs 1 to 3 weeks, but they also had long shot programs where schools took a semester long approach to reviewing some things about the development of math sequence. And they had programs that combined short shot and long shot programs. So I'm just wondering, does anybody out there actually have a math boot camp? Maybe similar to Fast Track or something like the ones we've talked about here. So it looks like most do not, which is good because that's what we're talking about here. So you might have some interest in actually doing something like this. And so we'll proceed on. Just a few things about the college. We are the largest community college in Maryland with 27,000 credit students. Now that's large around here. I know there are larger schools, but you know, that 27,000 is a fairly good sized school. The one unique thing about our school is we've got a 33% international population. And although I didn't change this slide, I said 175 countries represented. I just heard our president, Dr. Pollard, last week give a presentation, and And this semester it's 167. But whatever the number is, we've just got a lot of countries represented. It's probably owing to our location near Washington, D.C. Fast Track, we'll talk a little bit about the history of Fast Track. We didn't come up with this concept of the fast-paced review course. Prince George's County, which is a county right adjacent to Montgomery County, they developed a course like this in the mid-1990s. They seem to be having some success with it, so we decided we'd give it a try. We offered the course the first time in the year 2000. In August, we had 33 students, and in January 2001, we had 22. But we got such good response from the folks who were teaching it as well as the students that we thought this was really going to be a good thing. So we decided to continue it. And in the first year, we used the material we got from Prince George's Community College. But everybody does things a little bit differently. We cover the material slightly in a different manner. So we developed our own course material starting in 2001. When we offered it in 2000, 2001, 2002, we just offered the basic Fast Track. We just did the pre-algebra and the elementary algebra course. In 2003, we added the advanced Fast Track where we covered elementary and intermediate algebra. Now, since that first year, we've run between 125 and 230, generally averaging about 160 students. But there's a wide variation there. And we offer this course through workforce development and continuing education. And it is not a required course. So we have to advertise this program. And I think it just depends on how well we advertise it each year, depending how many students we get. And I will talk about how we advertise it a little bit later on, a couple of slides further on. Course objectives, you know, from a student's perspective, saving time and money, I think, are really what it's all about. You know, they can save a semester or two. And in fact, as I'll discuss in a few minutes, some have even saved 3 semesters, been able to bypass the entire developmental math sequence. Now, saving money, of course, is important too for those students. I don't know how much it costs at your campus, but a 3-credit course at Montgomery College costs about $480. And if you add the cost of a book to that, you're over $600 probably. So saving money certainly is important, but I really think the key is saving time. Because the longer a student stays in college without achieving a educational goal, the greater the outside pressures that pull them away from college. Work pressures, family pressures, whatever. So if they're not achieving, if they're not having success, they may leave the school program entirely. So if we can get them in the right place at the right time, the right level for them, what they're capable of, I think it's a good deal. What we found, of course, is that students come in our campus, they take Accuplacer. And if they make a few good guesses on the Accuplacer algebra test, it's 12 questions, 12 multiple choice questions, they could get placed at too high a level. And what results from that is a student who is out of his element. And they generally fail because they're placed at too high a level. And maybe they get some good counseling and they drop back to where they should have started, but in any case, they've lost that semester. The stubborn student might take it again, fail again. Now they've wasted an entire year. So, and you also have the problem of the student who is coming back to school maybe and hasn't even taken any time to review any math material, and they take the placement test, place at a very low level, the lowest level that you've got at your school. And yet they really are pretty good in math. And when they start going through the math course that they elected to take, they zip right through it. And they've wasted their time too, because they could have placed at a higher level. So we want to get them at the right place, the right time for their abilities. And if we do that, we got a better chance of them staying in school and completing a educational objective like a college level math class, an AA degree. Well, what's our target population? Well, graduating high school seniors, certainly, and adults returning from school to school after a long absence. So who else is there? That's just about everybody, right? Well, let's look first at the graduating high school seniors. in Montgomery County, it's possible for a high school student to complete their math requirement at the end of their sophomore year. Now, I've read some research that says students lose 40% of what they've learned over a summer. Now, what do they lose after going 2 years without math? Well, they lose certainly a lot more. So anybody, you know, even if they've just taken a math class in their senior year, still, it might be nice to review for any of the graduating seniors, particularly if they've been away from it for a year or more. And adults returning to school after they've been away. And we get folks coming back to school after they've been away for a long time. I had a student not too long ago that called me up and said that they wanted to come back and they thought taking Fast Track would be the appropriate thing for them. And then we got around to talking, and I asked them how long they've been out of school, and they said they've been out of school for 55 years. The student was 75 years old and hadn't been in school since they were 20. And the student actually took Fast Track. I haven't followed that student to see how they're doing now, though. Okay, how we run the Fast Track program at Montgomery College. We do it 2 days a week, 2 hours per day, 5 days a week for 2 weeks. So that's 20 hours per course. We run it in June, August, and January. We run it in August prior to the fall semester, in January prior to the spring semester, and in June in time to actually take a summer course. Now, what they get out of Fast Track is a placement. They don't get a letter grade, they get a placement. And the placement is only good for the following semester. So a student taking Fast Track in August, they have to take that class that they're placed into in the fall semester. They take Fast Track in January, they've got to take the course we placed them into in the spring semester. Someone taking the course in June could take a course in the summer or in the fall, and that placement will be good. Now we offer morning and evening sessions so we can get someone who's available during the day, and we can get the folks who are working full time. We offer 9 to 11 in the morning, 6:30, 8:30 in the evening. Our basic Fast Track, we start out by covering pre-algebra in 7 hours. So this is definitely not the time to learn the stuff for the first time. We emphasize this is a review course, a fast-paced, intensive review course. Now, we give them a test at the end of the pre-algebra lessons, and if they do well, there's no problem. We just continue on with the elementary algebra portion. They have to achieve a score of 80% on this pre-algebra test. If they don't, what we recommend they do is spend the rest of the time reviewing the pre-algebra material, probably going to our Math Learning Center where they can get some tutoring help, but to review the pre-algebra material again so that at the end of the second week they can come back and take another pre-algebra test so that maybe they can place into elementary algebra. The folks who do pass pre-algebra can go on and take the elementary algebra, and then at the end of that second week we give them another test. And we do tell them that that last day of class might last more than 2 hours because we not only grade the test, but we will counsel them and tell them what they've placed into, what placement they have achieved. Advanced Fast Track is done very similar. We do 10 hours of elementary algebra and give them a test. The difference is that if they don't pass that elementary algebra test, they can spend the second week on their own studying elementary algebra, or since we run the basic and Fast Track concurrently, they can actually drop back and get another dose of elementary algebra by attending the basic Fast Track course, because they'll be doing the elementary algebra in the second week. And they get another chance at the elementary algebra then, so they might place into an intermediate algebra course. Students who do well in the intermediate algebra course will actually place into a college level math class. Okay, let's look at the results. We've had over 1,700 students who have taken the program, taken the course at Montgomery College since we instituted the program in year 2000. I'd like to actually call your attention to the bottom line there, the undetermined students. In order to determine if we've improved a placement or haven't, we need to have a placement score on record, and in some cases we don't. Early on, when we offered the Fast Track program, we actually gave them the Accuplacer test at the end of the course, told them they didn't have to have a placement prior to taking the course. We got away from that, and I'll actually talk about that later on. And we give them our own test at the end of the course. And we do ask them to have a placement on record. But we get a lot of folks who take Fast Track for many different reasons. We get a lot of students who will come to take Fast Track who just want to review math before they go off to some four-year school to begin their college career. We get parents who come in to take the course so they can help their middle school and early high school students with their math. So we get a lot of folks in here who we don't have a placement score on record to determine if we can improve their placement. But if you take that 356 students out of these 1752 and look at the ones we can actually measure, it works out to about 2 out of 3 students improve their placement at least one level. Now we could make this chart look really good. We could move everybody up 2 levels and say, boy, haven't we done a really good job? But the problem would be when we look at the next chart, we probably wouldn't fare too well. Because what we want to look at here, how did the student do in the course that we recommend that they enroll in after Fast Track? And so we compared the Fast Track pass rates to the non-Fast Track students. And you can see for all the developmental math courses, the pre-algebra, elementary algebra, and intermediate algebra, the pass rates are better than the non-Fast Track students. And at the college level math, it's about the same. So we think that's a pretty good indication that we're putting them at the right level, getting them started at the right,
do you have any thoughts about why
at the right place
it's higher
for their math career?
I mean, a gut feeling about why it's higher?
I think the Accuplacer tests probably are not accurate. So I think we do having them for 2 weeks at a time, okay, and giving them tests, seeing how they do their work. I think we can put them at the right place. Whereas I don't know that Accuplacer gets them to the right place.
So you think the major discrepancy is that they have poor placement on they're being placed too high?
Well, sometimes too high or too low. But certainly after we give them 20 hours of math, we have a better idea of what they can do. And they've now done all that review, so they should be in a better position to pass that next course. Okay. Then we looked at, of those students who are passing, what percent are getting the better grades, the A's and B's as opposed to the C's. And again, you can see that the student has just gone through this Fast Track review course. They are getting the A's and B's at a higher rate than the non-Fast Track student, even at the college math level. So again, we think that the Fast Track is providing them with a better base, and they go into that class.
Do you think there might be sorry, I keep interrupting with questions. That's my job. Do you think that there might be an element of relief of boredom in this? You know, when students are taking a class that they perceive they've taken before, they're quite a bit more bored with the material, and so they don't pay attention, they don't do homework at the same rate. Do you think that by giving them a chance to move into a higher level course, they simply are now more engaged in the process because they feel like they've been given a chance?
I think they're more motivated, and you know, I think in some cases the semester-long programs for some of the students is just moving too slow, and they get bored. But they're not bored in the Fast Track class. It's a fast-paced, you know, fast-moving process, so they have to stay with it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. This next chart, some more results about Fast Track, is one that we hadn't even thought about when we started the Fast Track program. When we started, it was all about placement, getting the student at the right point in time where they can be successful. But several years after we started the program, the college came up and published this statistic that said 41% of students complete a college level math class within 2 years of completing elementary algebra, which means that in 2 years they pass 2 courses. They pass intermediate algebra and they pass a college level math class. So I decided I ought to go look at, okay, how does that compare to the fast track students? And now we had to look at the basic fast track students, because there's an elementary algebra portion to basic and there's an elementary algebra portion to advanced. So we had to look at both of those. And we found that 55% of the students would pass the intermediate algebra and a College of Math class within 2 years. And that's quite a difference. That's a one-third increase. Okay, so this was somewhat startling because we hadn't even thought about this. So they're staying in school and completing their College of Math class certainly at a greater rate than the non-fast track student. I've made this presentation, not this presentation, but fast track presentations at a lot of AMATYC conferences, and the last couple I've made with Central Piedmont Community College from Charlotte and the University of Alaska at Fairbanks. We've made joint presentations on the fast track program because they've implemented their program there, and their results, not exactly the same numbers percentage-wise, but still good percentages. Students are advancing a level, and they're completing the next math course at greater rates than the non-fast track students. So, you know, from the results that I've gotten from other schools that I'm aware of that have used the fast track program, the results are still pretty good. Okay, I talked about advertising. Yeah, we offer this through workforce development, continuing education. So it's not required. Although I should say that the University of Alaska at Fairbanks has made this a 1-credit course. And that certainly offers some benefits. You can get financial aid for it, for one thing. But we don't do it that way. We offer it through workforce development and continuing education, and there's no financial aid for it. And so we really have to get the word out. And word of mouth is good. You know, a lot of students will tell other students about it. But the prime resource for getting the word out is the counselors, because they're meeting with the students and they can advise the students as to what they should take or what they shouldn't take. At the college here, there's a newsletter. It's a joint operation with the Montgomery County Public School System and Montgomery College. We send out a newsletter to high school seniors to talk about making the transition from high school to college. And we can put some information in that newsletter to tell them about Fast Track. So that's one way of getting our word out. Continuing Education Office, they have their own publications that they can advertise in. And of course, the schedules of classes. Now, since it's not a credit class, but we do put it in the credit schedule class. We put a little paragraph in there about the Fast Track program right at the math heading, and tell them, you know, here's what Fast Track can do. If you're unhappy with your placement from Accuplacer, you might think about taking a Fast Track course, and here's where you can go and get more information about it. And of course, it is listed in the non-credit schedule of classes. We've experimented a couple of times with direct mail. If a student got an A in a pre-algebra class, we would make them eligible for the advanced Fast Track class. So we would find out, you know, get a listing of all those folks who got an A in pre-algebra and send them a letter saying, you know, here's what you might consider for next in the next January or August or June class. And that's worked okay, but it is somewhat difficult, the timing of it, particularly in the January timeframe, to try and get results out, get the results of who passed, and then get the letters out and get responses before you start the class. We put flyers out. The flyers are very specific. We put out a summer flyer and a winter flyer. The summer flyer tells about the June and August classes, and the winter flyer tells about the January classes. The flyers give information about the course number, the dates, the times, the room numbers, and the instructors. So they're very specific. We also have a general brochure which just gives general information about what the Fast Track program is all about. But one of the best places is the web page. We can always refer a student to the web page if they're interested in Fast Track and say, go there and look up the information. And you can also go there and look up what information we've got on the website about Fast Track. And in fact, that just as a reminder, I better go and check to see if we've got the latest summer classes up there.
I was just, this website
Yeah,
doesn't seem to be working, so I'm just trying to figure out what might be wrong with it. Yeah, well, I get to montgomerycollege.edu, but following that particular link, I'm not getting to I get an error 404. So I wonder if there's something misspelled or. I'll keep poking around for it. Maybe I can find it.
Correct address. Yeah. Okay. But if if that doesn't work, what you can do is just go to montgomerycollege.edu, and if you go to math department, the Rockville math department, there's a link there that will take you to the fast track. I just found it now, and I don't see any difference.
Okay, it's good. Well, it didn't work from that first link, but I think maybe it needed to have a www in it to work directly. So, yeah, because it seems to work from the www, I think. They'll let me know if it doesn't. I'll find something else.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. If you're interested in a fast track like program, and I know when I made this presentation or similar presentation at the last AMATYC, I've gotten a number of schools have expressed some interest. In fact, I don't even know if any of these are listening, but North Central Michigan College and Kansas City, Kansas College, Front Range Community College in Colorado, and Lynn Benton Community College in New York have all sent me emails from this last presentation. And probably over the number of times I've made this presentation, I think I've probably sent information to 50 or 60 schools about the fast track program. And I don't know how many of those might have actually ended up adopting a program like that. But if you're interested, there's some things that you really need to consider. Yeah, what courses should it cover? Now, we cover the pre-algebra, elementary, and intermediate algebra, but some schools I know have a basic math component. In fact, Mountain Empire Community College in Virginia has a basic math component, and they've implemented a fast track program, and they've added a basic math component to it. But you need to decide what you want to cover, and I don't think you should be too ambitious if you're going to start out, like we just started out just covering pre-algebra and elementary algebra, and I would think it would probably be appropriate to stick with something like that. Yeah, do you offer it through continuing education? Because if you do, you can get it started really fast. If you got to go through a curriculum committee, you're probably adding a lot of time to the process of getting it started. Yeah, talk to a number of schools about their startup experiences. If you want, you can send me an email, and I can give you some email of folks who have actually done this before, so they can give you what their pitfalls were, if any. Number of classroom hours. Not everybody does it like we do it. I know at Central Piedmont, they took what we had, and they've gone to 3 15-hour courses, a 15-hour pre-algebra, a 15-hour elementary algebra, and a 15-hour intermediate algebra. So, people adopt what they think is appropriate. I think you probably need to consider developing your own course materials. Everybody does it. Pre-algebra is pre-algebra, but somehow it seems like everybody does it slightly differently. Like we first used Prince George's material, but then we switched over and developed our own. But there's a time frame involved in that, so you need to make sure you allow time for that. And certainly make sure everybody's on board, and your counselors particularly, and make sure they're aware of it well enough in advance prior to offering it, because they're going to be meeting with students well in advance.
Bill, can I get you to back up one bullet point here? We had a question about what the course materials are. Sure. Do you use a textbook, or do you provide worksheets, or is there a course packet? Or
okay, we've developed a workbook, two workbooks, one for the basic, one for the advanced. It's about a 300-page book, each one of them, and it is a workbook. It's something they will work in. We go over a lesson, and then we've got some problems in there for them to do in the book, and then there's some extra problems if they want more problems that they can do at the back of the book. So, it took about 6-8 months to develop. And another question from a participant: do you use calculators in these fast track courses? And I suppose I should ask if you use calculators in the regular courses too, because it probably is a correlation. Yeah, yeah. There is that certainly is a big discussion topic. We do allow them to use calculators in the course. Now, in the regular semester-long pre-algebra course, they cannot use calculators for the first half of the course. But that seemed kind of difficult to do with us, so we do them allow them to use calculators throughout the course. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and you got to develop your brochure and flyers just as we've done to make sure everybody knows about the program. So those are some things that I think you might want to consider if you're going to develop a program like this, a boot camp. Now, since I've done this presentation on Fast Track a number of times, I know there are some questions, although you guys ever come up with a bunch of others. Who teaches the Fast Track courses? Well, we use full or part-time teachers, and we've used high school teachers. As the coordinator for the program at the college, I will select the instructors, and I make sure that the folks that I select are folks who like teaching developmental math and I think are good at it. So I take care of that. And how much is an instructor paid? I know it varies at different schools. I used to know what Central Piedmont and University of Alaska did, but I don't remember what their rates are now. But we pay, it's $40 an hour for the 20 hours of classroom time, so it's a flat $800 fee, no matter whether you're full, part-time, or your number of years experience. It's a flat $800. Okay, why do we use our own test, Vice Accuplacer, at the end of the course? As I said, when we started out, we used Accuplacer. I don't even remember why we were concerned about that, but we started using our own test. And then somewhere along the line, after maybe third or fourth year, someone said, you know, we ought to see whether, compare the two, and have the folks take Accuplacer as well as our test at the end of the semester, at the end of the course, sorry. So if you're not using Accuplacer, the numbers may not mean anything, but let me give them to you anyway. Students prior to taking Fast Track had an average Accuplacer score of 35. For us, that placed them into the pre-algebra course. After taking Fast Track, this fast-paced intensive review course, their average score was 65. And that placed them into intermediate algebra. But we also gave them our test. And what we found was that many of those folks who placed into intermediate algebra really were not ready based on what we've observed in the test that we gave them. So what we've concluded is that after a fast-paced intensive review, Accuplacer has a tendency to place a student too high. So we think seeing what a student can do over 2 weeks and looking at their test results of the two tests they take, we certainly can do a better job of placing that student than, say, Accuplacer Algebra. Okay, how much does it cost at Montgomery College? The cost of the course, whether it's basic or advanced, is $120, and the workbook is $42. So at $160+ that's about 1/3 the cost of a 3-credit course, about 1/4 the cost if you include the cost of a book. So, you know, if you certainly advance a level, you certainly saved quite a bit of money. Another concern that I've heard expressed at various conferences is, well, you know, if a student achieves a placement, let's say in the January Fast Track course, how can they register for a course that starts maybe a week later? That course is probably full, and it probably is full. What we tell the students to do is, well, first of all, try and register for the course they want to get into, and if it's room, that's no problem. If it's full, we suggest they go to the first day of class, explain to the instructor that they were a Fast Track student, they achieved this placement. And since all the instructors know about the Fast Track program, we really have never had a problem. As long as there is actually a seat available in the classroom, the instructors will usually let that student in. So we haven't had this as a problem, but I know it can be a concern. Okay, well, questions for you based on what you've heard. You know, what concerns do you have about maybe implementing a program like this? Is the cost that I've talked about prohibitive? You think it's difficult just to get the students to register? Lack of financial aid, which I know can be a concern. What are you thinking? Maybe I should have had one up there that there are none. Maybe none is.
If they want to answer none, they can just type it in the chat window.
Okay. Okay. We've gotten more
well,
people in there.
Well, they can choose all that apply. Yes.
Or maybe you can vote more than one place. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So it's kind of split. It looks like.
We have a couple questions in the chat window that you might address. Okay, so I'll read them to you.
I kind of put a sticky note over there.
Are your tests multiple choice, and do students have to show their work? Is the first one.
Okay, the tests are not multiple choice. They have to show their work and come up with the answer.
Okay. And how many students do you have
regular math test?
Fast track?
Yeah, we try and limit it to 20, but we don't put any upper limit because if we get up to say 25, we'll split into 2 sections and we'll run 2 sections. Do students get some kind of review sheet or formula sheet for the exam when they take the exam at the end? No, they don't get a review sheet. There is a practice test in the book that they can look at to get an idea of what it's going to be like, but there's no review sheet for the exam. At least we don't do that. How many questions are on an exam typically? There's 25 on the pre-algebra. There's 20 on the elementary algebra, and right now I can't remember. I guess the better question would probably be how much time does it usually take a student to do one of these exams? Because usually, you know, we're all math teachers. We know you can write an exam with 1 question and 20 parts, or 1 hour exam. It's 1 hour. It's a 1 hour test. What percentage of students? You might have said this, and I just missed it in the information that flew by. But what? How many students don't place into a higher level at some point, or is it pretty good about? They place at least 1 level higher. Well, they're 2 out of 3. Yeah, the results are of those that we can measure, 2 out of 3 place at least 1 level higher. So 1/3 really stay at the same level because there's very few that actually drop a level. So it's about a 2/3, 1/3. 1/3 stay where they are, 2/3 advance at least a level. Okay. Do you have another slide, or is this the last slide? Okay. I think there's just one more slide. Sorry, you guys, I forgot to put up poll results, but they're up there now. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's okay. All right. I'm going to hide that now. Okay, so, yeah, walking through continuing education. Actually, that's really the easiest way to go rather than go through. Do the counselors give you any feedback on whether this is an easy sell for students or not? I mean, we have so many students who just don't seem to. Yeah, it's not a difficult sell. But it's money out of pocket instead of money out of they think, oh my gosh, I can do this. So that is a tough sell, I think, just for some students. It is money out of pocket. That part of it is. And that's, I think, why University of Alaska Fairbanks went to making it a credit course, 1 credit course. Do you target any students in particular based on their placement score results? I mean, do you have any kind of targeted or based on the schools they attended or anything like that? Okay. No, we don't look at that. And are the courses pretty personalized to the instructor, or are they fairly well scripted? They're pretty scripted. You know, I give each instructor an instructor's packet, and it's got the tests in it. It's got some, you know, we've got some evaluation forms we give to the students, and you know, a bunch of things, so they know exactly what they got to do. We give them a time frame, you know. Not an exact thing, but you know, first hour you ought to cover these lessons, and so the second hour cover these lessons. How correlated are the topics? These are all coming from participants, by the way. I'm not really this inquisitive. How correlated are the topics in the fast track to what's actually taught in the courses? Are there any topics that are omitted in fast track? No, it's pretty much exactly the same topics. Is it like, we just cover them in a very rapid fashion. Is it participatory? How is that? How does that class look? The first time. Yeah, good question. The way we run them is, you know, we'll take a lesson, and there's like, for example, 22 lessons in the pre-algebra section. We'll take a lesson, and we might take that lesson and give a few examples in 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll give the students some problems to do in the book for another, you know, 5 or 10 minutes, and then we move on. So it is a pretty scripted thing.
Okay, and how about the structure of the student
Yeah, I think that
materials?
covers it.
Do they get, is it, I think what they're asking is, they said, practice problems, open-ended, etc. So maybe I need clarification on that question. I'm quite sure.
I don't know what the open-ended, but yeah, there's practice problems in there for each lesson. They'll sit down and do some of those problems for that lesson, and then move on to the next lesson. And so there's lecture, then there's time for the students to work problems, and then there's more lecture, then more problems.
Questions, so we'll give him a second here. Do students have?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, he's got his sticky note off now, and
now
he's paying attention.
Yeah, I got my sticky note off. Yeah. No, we don't give them homework. This is over through Workforce Development and Continuing Education, so I don't do any homework. But I tell them, look, if you're having trouble with this particular lesson, there's a whole nother set of problems at the back of the book for that lesson. Go over those problems. Then come back in early to class the next day and let's go over those problems. So there's no homework, but if they're struggling, if they're having trouble with a particular lesson, we have problems for them to do.
Question about attendance. Is attendance required? Although they don't get a grade at the end, so I don't know what the penalty would be for not attending.
No. Okay, well, the penalty is this. Workforce Development requires us to give them a grade. It's either complete or not complete. If they don't attend, if they miss a class, they get if they miss 2 classes, they get not complete. Okay. Otherwise, they get a complete. But if they miss classes, they miss 1 class, they're missing 10%.
I would assume that attendance is probably pretty good if they've signed up for it and paid out of pocket for it.
Yeah, it really is. If they sign in, they're paying their own money.
Whether they should pay their own money
it's
for
pretty good.
Other courses too, doesn't
it? Yeah.
Have we questioned you guys out?
We got the questions. Yeah.
I'll.
Well, I just put up some schools up here of folks that I know that are or have been replicating the program. And I mentioned, actually, the first 3 I've already mentioned: Central Piedmont, University of Alaska Fairbanks, and Mountain Empire Community College in Virginia. Madison Area Technical College in Riverside actually replicated the fast track program very, very early on, although I haven't kept in contact with those folks to find out if they're still doing it. I don't know. But those are some schools that either have or are replicating the program.
Downsides of this program?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, usually every program has, good things and bad things, and usually you hope that the goods outweigh the bads. But have you seen anything that you would, as a cautionary note?
Maybe I'm too close to it. I don't see any downside. Well, the downside from a student's standpoint is that they could pay some money and not advance. And now I still think they're better off because they've actually had 20 hours of math to review. And they're probably going to do better in the course that they are in, but they have paid money and didn't.
I'm going to hide your slides. If you want to type your email address maybe again into the chat window in case anybody wants it. I'm going to go, the original slide, I know. But I got to go back to my slides, you see. So
original slide. Okay.
So now you have to participate in the chat window. So I want to thank everybody for participating in today's webinar. And if you'd like to support future webinars, these webinars are all funded by AMATYC and free to members and non-members. You can see announcements about future conferences and webinars by going to the AMATYC Facebook page, which you can find at /AMATYC on Facebook. We also record all of our webinars, and those can be found at, if you follow this bit.ly link here, bit.ly/AMATYC webinars, all lowercase. It can take sometimes up to 1 or 2 weeks to produce them, although we try to get it a little faster than that. It has to go through a 4-step process. And if you would take just 2 minutes to evaluate the webinar, this helps us know who all attended and what you thought of it, so we can let the presenters know how they did. For many of them, it's their first webinar. So there's the link. I'm also going to give you the link as a Zoomerang link in case your browser has a problem with bit.ly links. So give me 1 second here. And there's the survey again as a Zoomerang link directly. We also ask at the end of this, if you do need a receipt that you participated today, then make sure you fill out the evaluation, because at the end of that evaluation, we ask for email addresses for people who do need a confirmation. So if there are any more questions, we've still got Bill's time for another 3 minutes, so feel free to ask. And let me again thank Bill for doing his first webinar with us today.
Yeah, it was fun.
And so as a good audience, we should probably give him some applause, which you can do in that raise your hand button if you'd like. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting. And thank you guys all for coming. We have another webinar on Friday. So if you haven't paid attention to that one, we've still got one to go this week. So maybe I'll see some of you there. And otherwise, enjoy your day, and may you have good weather between now and Friday when I see you again. We'll talk to you guys all later. Thanks, Bill. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Are we done?